everyone. So we are glad you could make it. So today we're going to talk about reading and the importance of while reading activities to everyone, most especially to the students. So before we dive in, I want to make sure you know that this discussion that's happening among us is important because we can use this lesson as our future reference when we are on the field. So we'll start by discussing or talking about how we know reading exists and why it matters when we think about the while reading activities. So let's move on to the proper discussion. Next slide, please. Reading. Reading is an activity that we do all the time, or it is the process of looking at a series of written symbols and getting meaning from them. So when we read, we use our eyes to receive written symbols and we use our brains to convert them into words, sentences, and paragraphs that communicate something to us. So reading basically is an activity that we do all the time. So we read to get meaning from written symbols and we read to communicate. So reading is also a skill that takes practice. In order for us to develop our reading skills, we need to practice reading a lot. So when we are practicing our reading skills, we need to anticipate the reading and complete some activities during the actual reading or after it. So we considered reading to be one of the most important skills that we can adopt alongside listening and speaking. So it is a process that helps us understand the certain context and allows us to communicate ideas. So this type of learnings allows students and also for us, future stewards, to develop our own strategies. So through this, it will be able to approach text in different ways depending on our interests or needs. So this kind of learning is ideal for us who like doing things by ourselves or those who have prepared hands-on experiences. So next slide, please. These are the importance of while reading activities. So while reading activities are defined as activities that help students focus on aspects of the text and understand it better. So the goal of these activities is to help learners to deal as they would deal with it as if the text was written in their first language. While reading activities are a great way to help students practice and retain their reading skills. So when students read while they're listening to the teacher, they are able to focus on what they are reading and the words will stick in their minds or in their heads. So this helps students learn how important it is for them to read for themselves, as well as how much more fun it is when they are reading for themselves. So it also helps students understand more about their own reading abilities and what they need from their text before they can move on from one text to another with confidence. So for example, if you are for example, if you're teaching your students about the different types of sentences, you could set up a while reading activity. So where they have to identify each type of sentences and go over them with class. So this will help them about the different types of sentences and how they are structured. So which will help them understand more complex writing later on. So in addition, it is important for everyone to develop fluency in reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills before beginning a course at a higher level. It also helps to learn more about the world around us. So through while reading activities, we can participate in various activities such as retelling a story from memory, making up a story based on the text we have just read, and creating a list of adjectives that describe a character or object mentioned in the certain text or certain text. So activities during uh, activities during reading has two main purposes. So first, increase students' understanding of all text. So The activities in this reading guide help students to improve their understanding of text. So by using these activities, so there's a tendency that the students will be able to understand the meaning of words and phrases, especially if they are unfamiliar with that. Second one is use their prior knowledge to make connections between what they already know and new information that they are learning. And lastly, understand how someone uses language to develop ideas and express his or her point of view. So the second one is to enable the teacher or paraprofessional to check if the students understand what they are reading and in which area students need help or support. So because fluency is important for comprehension, so the teacher should provide useful scaffolding to the students in the form of help with unfamiliar or specialized vocabulary. So the teacher or the paragraph can also promote readers' engagement with the text by encouraging them to learn, to uh, encouraging them to learn more about the subject matter covered in the text. So it will be better able to comprehend and retain information if the students are able to read fluently. Fluency how is important for comprehension because it allows us to process text in our heads. So which leads to increased retention of what we have read or when we read fluently. So it is less likely to have difficulty distinguishing between the main ideas and supporting details in the text. So how can a teacher or a further pro use an assessment tool to check if their students understand what they are reading? So first, teachers should assess the students' understanding of the text by asking them questions about it. So the goal of this is for the teacher to listen or to the students to listen carefully for the answers and questions and then make a note of any areas where students might need support. Second one is teachers should encourage students to reflect on their reading experiences or reading experience. So in particular, students can be asked to write down what they learned from the book or from the discussion or what they thought while reading it. So this will allow them to think more deeply about what they read and may help them recall ideas better when taking tests. So that's all for the importance of while reading activities. So next up, we have Miss Elaine to discuss to you the examples of while reading activities. Miss Elaine, the limelight is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pablo. So, during this stage, the students will be able to first confirm predictions. In doing while reading activities, it confirms the predictions the students had before reading the actual text, whether their predictions are true or not. Second is to gather information. Gathering information should always be done in while reading activities. Such activities do not just test what the students know, but also let them learn different information they may find. And the third one is organize information. As the students do the while reading activities, they process the information they get. By processing those, they also organize the information in their mind and also categorize information from what they have read. So, what are examples of while reading activities? The number of while reading activities that you can do in the classroom depend on the creativity of the teacher. You can use while reading activities which are based on traditional forms of assessment, or you can implement some technology if you are good enough integrating it in the classes. So, next slide please. So here are the scaffolds to help students build reading strategies during reading. So for scaffolding activity, check in with students, staying on hand during reading to answer and ask relevant questions. So what it does, the check-in scaffolds the reading activity, helps with comprehension and new words, and gives students a chance to share what they found or learned in their reading. Next slide, please. So when it comes to the examples, when students are reading a story, ask them to predict what will happen next. Now let's read the example here. Adi's mom asked Adi not to open the window. If he does, bugs might fly into the house. It is very hot inside. Adi opens the window just a little, then sees a butterfly flying towards the window. What might happen next? So here, the students will give their guesses on what will happen next to Adi. Let us say that one student will answer that maybe the butterfly might come inside and Adi will probably get scolded by his mother. So that's all for the scaffolding activity. Let us now head on to the report of Miss Janela. Miss Janela?
Okay, thank you for that, Miss Elaine. So for the next scaffolding activity, we have the review vocabulary. So what it does? Vocabulary activities can check students' understanding of new words in the text, reinforce the meaning and use of new words, and give them practice at using new vocabulary. An example of it is discussing the new words that the students encounter in the text. The facilitator of learning can help them and find its meaning perhaps in a dictionary or on the internet. After doing that, the students can add the new words to the artist or journal. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have here an example entitled My Little Brother. So let me read it for you. So my little brother is 5 years old. His name is Adam. He is a pest. He follows me all the time. He always bothers me and my friends. He always take my things without asking. My mom asked me to be patient because I am older. So according to the short text, it seems that pest means annoying. It is a figure of speech or a figurative language because it is not true in a literal way. The big brother directly compare his brother The big brother directly compared his little brother Adam to a pest, even if he is not really a pest or an insect. Instead of saying that his brother is annoying, he described him as a pest. So this scaffolding activity allows the students to understand a word deeply based on the sentences or of the sentence or the sentences on how the sentence or sentences is constructed. It is also helps the students to become more critical thinker as they should be. So next slide, please. So for the next scaffolding activity, we have the preview text, skimming a new section of text to discover what it's about. So what it does, the preview prepares students to read upcoming text, including how to use certain features in the text. It also gives them a renewed purpose for reading. So for example, is have the students skim a new section to get a general idea of what is being presented with non-fiction point, out of heading, diagrams, and tables that might give them clues about the new information that is about to be presented. So next slide, please. So we have here an example. So let me read it also for you. So, looking over reading materials in order to become familiar with its content before you actually begin reading it. In this way, you begin thinking about any experiences you may have had with the subject. So, previewing simply means looking over your reading materials in order to become familiar with its content because you actually begin reading it before you actually begin reading it. In this way, you begin thinking about and any experience you may have had with the subject. So, next slide, please. So for the next scaffolding activity, we have the add information like character, plot, problem, and etc. to a story map. What it does, so the story map helps the students during discussion. Teachers can use it to check students' understanding. So for example is make a cause and effect chart using the event on the story map and add new characters or settings to the map. Begin to think about the problems that a story presents and how the problem was solved by the characters in the story. So next slide please. So we have here an example image of the said activity, which is the add information like character, plot, problem, and etc. So as you can notice in the picture, it seems that after the teacher discussed a story to his or her students, she tasked them to create or draw story map that shows the setting, character, and the plot of the story, including the beginning, the middle, and the ending. And it is evident that with this kind of activity, the class will be So as you can notice here in the picture, it seems that after the teacher discussed a story to his or her students, she tasked them to create or draw a story map that shows the setting, characters, and the plot of the story, including the beginning, middle, and ending. It is evident that with this kind of activity, the class will be more interactive and it will be easier for the students to familiarize the important details or content of the story, especially its flow. So that would be all for my part. Here is Miss Jessica Reyes to continue the discussion.
Thank you so much. Now let's have another scaffolding activity. Another scaffolding activity is called Use a Study Guide. So what it does, a study guide helps a student to get through larger sections of text, promotes greater independence, and helps students study for tests. It also helps teachers check on students' progress and understanding. So this study guide is for the larger text that might include new vocabulary, focusing questions, ideas about how to read the text in order to learn the material more deeply, activities for deeper reflection, and review activities for a test. For example, here in this activity, the students needed to explore the story entitled Thank You Mom. But before reading it, the students have to uncover first the difficult or unfamiliar terminologies that they are going to encounter while reading. This prior activity can help them to get to know more of the vocabulary, understand the passage, and also connect with the story while reading it. Without this kind of activity, there is a tendency that the students might have a hard time or difficulty in understanding the passage. Next scaffolding activity, the teachers can do the reread a passage of text several times to get more out of it, or also called as close reading. So what does this close reading or rereading means? Rereading helps students make inferences, understand text more deeply, and see new perspectives. It also helps them to understand how authors crafted their writing and why they wrote it. So in this reading, this is where we ask our students to read a story for the second time for them to explore a different point of view. As an example instruction, it could be like, read the passage once again and this time imagine you're a witch. How would you feel? There is a sudden perspective or point of view being unleashed or discovered. Let's have an application. In this story, which is entitled My Best Friend. My best friend. A best friend is a person who you value above other friends in your life. Someone you have fun with, someone you trust, and someone in whom you confide. The first person you call when you get good news or want to go out for a bite to eat is an example of your best friend. When we read this passage once again while imagining our one true friend, we can relate ourselves into the text. We can also remember the times we have shared with them. For example, I will reread the passage once again. My best friend. A best friend is a person who you value above other friends in your life. Someone you have fun with, someone you trust, and someone in whom you confide. The first person you call when you get good news or want to go out for a bite to eat is an example of your best friend. This time, I am now much more being connected with the text because I have related with me. I have remembered my best friend whom I can always count on. From that, we can now see how rereading works. There's a new perspective or discovery being established, and that can make a new connection with the text. For the next while reading activities, we have Joylene to report.
Thank you so much, Miss Jessica. So, the additional while reading activities is first identify topic sentences. So, topic sentences is the main idea of every paragraph. The main idea of paragraph is the author's message about the topic. Remember that every paragraph usually includes a topic sentence that identifies the main idea of the paragraph. So where can we find the topic sentences? The topic sentences is typically the first sentence of a paragraph, and it introduces the subject of a paragraph by laying out a controlling idea or a particular point of view on the topic. So the rest of the paragraph will include supporting sentences with examples and evidences to support the main point. So let us say, for example, we have here, cats are very good pets for several reasons. They are naturally good caregivers because they take care of their kittens. So they want to take care of their owners as well. Cats are quite clean, and if you train them to use a litter box, they require almost no cleanup in their area. So what do you think is the topic sentence in the paragraph? Of course, it is the cats are very good pets for several reasons because it is the first sentence of the paragraph. So next, we have the general and specific ideas. So let us distinguish these two. General ideas usually express the main point or main idea of a piece of writing, and specific ideas, on the other hand, provide evidence to further define the general or main idea and prove that it is valid. So meaning to say, a general idea depicts a larger area than a specific idea does. So let us say, for example, we have here letter A, women are less likely than men to become full professors. So letter B, women who become professors are generally paid less than their male counterparts. So letter C, we have women often face discrimination in the field of education. And lastly, we have female professors are not given an equal number of important committee assignments. So as we can see, if we read the whole letters, we can now find the general idea, and it is letter C, which is supported by the three specific examples of discrimination against women, which are letters A, B, and D. So next, we have skim a text for specific information. So skimming is the ability to locate the main idea within a text. Skimming is a strategic, selective reading method in which you focus on the main ideas of a text. On skimming, deliberately skip text that provides the details, stories, data, or other elaboration. So these are the steps on how to skim. Number 1, we read the title, the introduction, any headings and subheading, and the conclusion. Step 2, we read the first sentence of each paragraph or the topic sentence. Step 3, we read the concluding sentence of each paragraph. Step 4, we read the words highlighted in bold. And lastly, look at illustrations like pictures, diagram, and tables. So, using this reading strategy will help the students to become proficient readers. Skimming reading will also help students to be a flexible reader. It will help students to locate the information quickly while making sure that the students use their time wisely. One of the example is when you have an exam in a few days and you need to review the material you learned, but you don't want to reread everything. With that, it will help you better comprehend what you read, and that is why skimming is really important. So next up, we have coding text. So coding text involves teaching students a method of marking so they can place a question mark next to a statement they don't understand, or an exclamation point or mark next to something that surprised them. So it is also a way to annotate a text that makes sense to the students, using underlining, circling, and symbol to highlight areas where students are confused or find the information they can relate to or may deem important. It's simple enough that students understand the concept and can visually see the benefits. So as you can see in the screen, we have here we encircle the text when we don't know the word, or question mark if we have the question, or line and heart if it is our favorite part. Parang ito lang yung ginagawa rin natin kapag nag-e-exam tayo, di ba? Ina-underline natin, ina-highlight natin yung mga importanting word para mas matandaan natin at mapasok sa isipan natin. Kasi parang ayun yung natin mga students kapag nag-e-exam tayo, need natin talaga mag-underline ng words, yung mga pangalan or yung mga date, na ito yung mga importanteng bagay na kailangan nating tandaan. So, that is coding text. Next, we have Miss Jenny to continue the additional while reading activities. Miss Jenny.
The next additional while reading activity is the student-to-student conversation. So this type of activity is one that promotes the integration of two or more skills. Since you read the paragraph, you talk to a classmate and listen to what he or she has to say. You can ask students to have a conversation after they have finished a paragraph or a stanza of a poem so they can clear up any confusions they might have. Here is an example. Cats are very good pets for several reasons. They are naturally good caregivers because they take care of their kittens, so they want to take care of their owners as well. Cats are quite clean, and if you train them to use a litter box, they require almost no cleanup in their areas. Student 1. Is it true that cats take care of their kittens? Student 2. Yes, cats love their kittens so much that is why they take care of their kittens. So as you can see, students can have a conversation after they have finished a paragraph or a stanza of a poem so they can clear up any confusion they might have. So in this activity, after the students read a text or a paragraph, they will talk and discuss this to their classmates. They might talk about what they have read, express their opinions or thoughts, or ask questions to each other if there are some confusions they might encounter while reading. So it will also enhance their speaking and listening skills of the students since it will be used in this activity. The next is the answer a short quiz. This is a traditional way to assess if students have learned something from the reading. However, you can make a difference by using online tools to collect those answers. This activity is the traditional way of assessing how the students learned and understand what they have read. In this way, we can ask questions about the text they have read and it will test the students if they really got something from it. Before, it is only done with paper and pencil, but now it can also be done with different online tools that can automatically collect answers. So let's have this example and we will know if you really learn from us. While watching this video, try answering the questions presented. I'll give you a few seconds to answer it. Okay, so if you're done, let's answer the first one. So the answer for the first one is topic sentence. For number 2, general ideas. And for number 3, skimming. So if you got the correct answers for the 3 questions, I'm sure that you learned something from our discussion. So for next slide po. For our conclusion, if you want to use this reading strategy successfully, you need to understand how the reading material is structured as well as have a clear idea about what specific information you have to locate. So it is said here that for us to make sure that the activities we will use will be effective, we have to understand the reading materials first and decide if the activities will be appropriate for the materials. So before we end our discussion, here is a clip to sum up the reading strategies that is discussed earlier. Let's watch this.
This is an introduction to critical reading strategies. Our essential question is, how do I approach a text so that I can read for understanding and to complete a task? There are 3 aspects to approaching a text. What do we do before reading, or pre-reading? What do we do during reading? And what do we do after reading? Now we come to what we do during reading. Once we've done some pre-reading and some thinking, we're going to read the text. For some of us, this is tough. Put your pencils down. Read it once through for a general understanding. Then you're going to read the text again. Now you pick up your pencil and you're going to mark the text. This can be done in lots of different ways. Some methods that we're going to look at are the following 4. One of them is to circle keywords and underline claims. Another method is called insert symbols, and it is what it sounds like. Another one that has a good name is writing in the margins. And finally, something that most of us are familiar with is highlighting anything that stands out. Now, some of these methods don't work very well if you're working with a textbook and you're not allowed to write in it. However, you can get around this by using sticky notes and flags and tabs. Let's have a look at method number 1, circling keywords and underlining claims. Keywords are words that are repeated, related to the topic, perhaps something that you don't know, or words that seem important somehow. Obviously, you don't count repeated words like the, but other key vocabulary words that are repeated might be important to your understanding. Claims are arguable statements, statements that someone could argue one way or another, and they might be backed up by statistical evidence, anecdotes, or expert testimony. This method is really good if you're trying to understand an argument. Method number 2 is inserting symbols as you read. You can choose your own symbols that have meaning to you, or you can start off with these ones. You can use a check mark if you know this already, or if you agree with something that you've read. An addition sign is for something new to you because it adds to your knowledge. A subtraction sign is when you encounter something that's different from what you thought. You can use an exclamation for something that surprises you. And a question mark isn't so much if you're confused about something, though you can certainly use it for that, but more about something that makes you wonder about more information or connections to something else. Method number 3 is writing in the margins. Now this one can be used in lots of different ways, and it is what it sounds like. You write all over the text, mostly in the margins where there's space. It can look a little something like this, where you draw arrows and add questions, make notes to yourself, and possibly along the side, add short summaries of what each section is about. This one is good if you have to summarize an article and just for general understanding. Highlighting standouts is a familiar strategy, but one that can be actually kind of hard to do, because we're often tempted to highlight way too much or not enough. But the key idea is that you are highlighting anything that either stands out to you because you make a personal connection, or perhaps something that you think is important.
Okay, that's the end of our report. We hope that you learned from our discussion. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.